A young man with white hair pauses as he notices glowing blue droplets leaking from a crack in the ceiling. His eyes widen with excitement. He has finally found his target. He carefully positions a bottle to catch the falling liquid, identifying the glowing substance as ink. The young man thanks the small black cat on his shoulder, Nero, acknowledging the discovery was only possible because of him. He looks toward the light at the cave's exit, thinking that if he brings this ink back, the pioneering corps might finally accept him. Relieved, he walks out of the cave and stands on a gray wasteland, looking toward a massive, radiant metropolis in the distance. Inside that bright city, a crowd cheers for the arrival of elite warriors known as colorists, who walk proudly with vibrant hair colors. Two citizens admire the warriors, discussing how the team successfully took down another giant creature. They know that as long as these heroes are around, the shining city will remain safe. However, the scene shifts to the darker, grimmer Shadow District. A line of people waits outside a building where a bulletin board announces the entrance exam for the C-Rank Pioneering Corps, stating that anyone with color is welcome. Suddenly, the white-haired young man is violently thrown out, crashing onto the ground. Two examiners look down at him. One yells that this place is not for people like him. The young man stands up in frustration, holding out the bottle of blue ink. He demands to know the problem, insisting the ink proves his qualifications. The examiner points a finger accusingly at the boy and spells out the harsh reality: he is rejected because he is colorless. He explains that in this world, roles are decided at birth and mocks the boy for not knowing his place. The red-haired examiner unleashes a surge of red energy, calling the young man a damn colorless. The white-haired protagonist flinches, groaning in pain as the energy washes over him. Standing at the top of the stairs, the examiner lectures the kneeling boy about pioneers. With an arrogant expression, he declares that only chosen people like himself are capable of becoming one. The examiner explains that the Black Lands outside the city are a place where the weak cannot survive, a terrifying landscape swallowed by darkness and filled with dangerous beasts known as creatures. He glorifies the pioneers who risk their lives to explore, gather resources, and fight these monsters for humanity, earning the title of heroes. Returning to the present, the examiner stares coldly at the protagonist, stating that for a colorless person, achieving such things is impossible. He insults the boy, telling him to know his place and stick to menial work. He issues a final threat, warning the boy he will die if he comes back, and slams the door shut. Left alone, the protagonist looks down as a soft sound comes from his chest. Nero, the black cat, pokes his head out of the boy's jacket. The protagonist pets the cat gently, saying they can just try somewhere else because he is used to this kind of rejection. Despite the humiliation, he forces a determined smile and promises Nero he will become the greatest colorist ever. He quickly tucks the cat back inside his clothes, worried someone might see him. The protagonist walks through the industrial streets, wondering where to go next. As he walks dejectedly, he hopes to find a place that will accept them, unaware he is being watched from above by a man with green hair. Later, the protagonist stands in a busy plaza, checking his notebook. He violently crosses out another location in a book filled with crossed-out names, realizing he has been rejected everywhere. He sighs, exhausted and defeated. Resigned, he approaches a building with a sign that reads, "Mari Workshop," muttering that it can't be helped. He opens the door and calls out to the owner. Inside, a girl with white hair and goggles pushes up her glasses and welcomes him back with a cheerful smile. Mari notices the protagonist's gloomy expression and guesses he failed another exam. As Nero hops onto the table, she greets the cat warmly. She tries to cheer the protagonist up, insisting the examiners are blind to his talent. However, he remains discouraged, asking what good his strength is if no one will accept a colorless person. Mari argues that his skills are proven by the fact he successfully brings back resources from the dangerous Black Lands. The protagonist stays humble, claiming his survival is only possible because Nero helps him. Changing the subject, he places the bottle of blue ink on the table and asks if she can buy it. Mari is delighted and agrees to pay him well. She pours the blue liquid into a pipe system, complaining that ink prices have skyrocketed due to shortages. The protagonist notes this scarcity is why people are calling for more pioneers. A view of the machinery shows their livelihood depends on these colorful fluids. The protagonist sighs, frustrated that no corps will hire him. Mari asks if he has thought about her previous suggestion. When he hesitates, saying the place she mentioned seems a bit... Mari abruptly slams a piece of paper on the table, shouting that he has to try everything. The flyer reveals a recruitment notice for the S-Rank Dawn Pioneering Corps, stating the entrance test is open to all and is based strictly on skill. The protagonist stares at the paper in shock. He admits he always hesitated to apply to the prestigious S-rank corps, assuming he would fail. He wonders if a place like that would really recognize his skills. Mari encourages him to take the chance, reiterating that if it is truly skill-based, he might finally get the acknowledgement he deserves. She smiles, reminding him he has wanted to be a colorist for a long time. A flashback shows a young, lonely protagonist in the rain clutching Nero, revealing he has held this dream since childhood. Mari assures him she will always support him. Bolstered by her confidence, the protagonist smiles and decides he can't hesitate anymore. He firmly grabs the recruitment flyer. With renewed determination, he waves goodbye to Mari and leaves the workshop. Walking through the quiet alleys of the Shadow District, the protagonist clutches the flyer, thinking he needs to prepare thoroughly for the exam. Suddenly, he halts as Nero reacts to a presence behind them. A voice casually asks what is wrong, and a hand holding a wooden wand tipped with a glowing green orb appears from the shadows. The green-haired man who had been spying on him aims his wand directly at the protagonist, a magical crosshair locking onto his back. Without hesitation, he fires a blade of green energy. The protagonist turns in shock, but he is too slow. The energy blast strikes him violently, causing him to scream in agony. As he collapses, the green-haired man and his assistant stand over him. The attacker mocks him, noting that although he dodged a direct kill shot, he will be dead soon anyway. Bleeding and unable to move, the protagonist lies on the pavement while the attacker coldly remarks that no one cares if a colorless person dies. The protagonist weakly calls out to his cat. Seeing Nero's terrified face peeking from his clothes, the boy uses his last ounce of strength to urge the cat to run away. The scene shifts to an industrial area marked with a warning for an ink waste disposal site. The protagonist groans as he regains consciousness, only to see the green-haired man smiling down at him. The man holds him by the collar, dangling him over a massive vat of black sludge. He taunts the protagonist, saying it is unlucky for him to be thrown in while still alive. The attacker explains that the pit contains ink waste, a deadly mixture that dissolves anything it touches, ensuring no body will remain. Terrified, the protagonist struggles and demands to know who this man is and why he was attacked. The green-haired man reveals that he and his partner were shocked earlier when spying on him. A flashback shows that while watching, they hadn't been interested in the boy, but in the creature hiding in his jacket. The man explains that a creature with the intelligence to follow a human is an incredible discovery. He calls Nero a true rarity as he tightens his grip on the protagonist's throat. Behind him, his assistant holds up a small cage. Inside, Nero sits trapped and crying while the protagonist looks on in horror, realizing his companion has been captured. Desperate, the protagonist grabs the green-haired man's collar, screaming at him to let go of the cat. The attacker is unimpressed, mocking the boy's anger as pathetic. His eyes glowing with greed, he explains the creature is too valuable for a colorless owner and will be sold for a huge sum on the black market. He easily overpowers the boy, choking him and lifting him into the air, sneering that the pet is too good for him. As he hangs helplessly, the protagonist scolds himself for being careless in the Shadow District. He reflects on his lonely past, thinking that while he has always endured discrimination, he absolutely refuses to lose Nero, his only family, over something like this. With a burst of fury, he warns the man not to mess with him and tightens his grip on the attacker's arm. The green-haired man pauses, noticing something strange. His expression shifts from arrogance to shock as energy crackles around his face. A swirling green aura flows from the attacker into the protagonist's hands, and the man cries out in panic, feeling something being forcibly sucked out of his body. Terrified by this unknown sensation, the man violently shakes the boy off, throwing him backward into the vat of toxic ink waste. The attacker dismisses the encounter as a waste of time, while Nero cries desperately from his cage. The villains declare they are now rich and head to the black market, ignoring the cat's tears. Deep beneath the black liquid, the protagonist watches the light fade, hearing Nero's cries grow distant. He tries to swim, but his body is paralyzed. As memories flash before his eyes, he wonders if his story will end in this dark pit. However, a vision of his younger self clutching the cat appears. He realizes he cannot give up yet because he still has a promise to keep. Deep within a void, a mysterious voice asks the unconscious protagonist why he is doing nothing. Confused, the protagonist asks the voice to identify itself. Large text flashes before him, commanding him to accept it. A torrent of thoughts rains down, urging him to save Nero and accept his true color. The protagonist's face becomes obscured by shadow as the voice demands he take back his power. A hand reaches out from a swirling vortex of black liquid. The protagonist stands motionless as a tendril of darkness dissipates above him. He looks down at his hands, now wreathed in black energy, confused that he was inside the ink. His memories are fragmented, but he pushes those thoughts aside to focus on what matters. Now a silhouette of shadow with glowing white eyes, he questions what he has become. A soft whimpering sound cuts through the silence, catching the entity's attention. He looks up to see two blurry figures standing high above, holding a small cage. Inside, Nero cries out. The sight of his companion snaps the protagonist back to reality, and he affirms he must save Nero. He reaches a hand of darkness toward the men. Suddenly, a massive geyser of black energy erupts from the depths. The green-haired man and his assistant recoil in terror, screaming. They look down into the disposal pit and are shocked to see the deadly pool of ink has vanished, leaving only a lone, dark figure standing at the bottom. The entity, emanating an ominous aura, begins to walk toward them. The green-haired man trembles in fear, his eyes wide with disbelief. As a gigantic claw of shadow descends upon them, he stammers, wondering if this terrifying being is a creature. The aftermath of the explosion leaves a scene of total devastation in the Shadow District. A frantic older man screams at a police officer, insisting he saw a small hand suddenly spring out from nowhere, causing a massive eruption of dark energy that wrecked the entire area. As the dust settles, medics carry away the unconscious bodies of the green-haired attacker and his assistant. A new group of arrivals observes the victims. A man with red hair and a woman with blue hair look down at the injured men, noting that these B-rank pioneers have completely lost their color. The blue-haired woman is baffled, unable to understand what could drain a person's color, but her companion suggests they focus on their mission. The red-haired man states they came because of reports of a large creature appearing within the city. The police officer on site is stunned to realize he is speaking to a high-ranking colorist. He nervously asks why such elite individuals are in the Shadow District, and the blue-haired woman politely explains they are there to investigate. The red-haired man asks to be shown the impact site, and the intimidated officer leads the way. The two investigators stand before the massive crater. The red-haired man inspects the debris and notices dark stains, while his partner confirms there are traces of a creature. She points out it is highly irregular for one to appear suddenly inside the city, especially in the outskirts, explaining that usually only small animals are found within the city walls. Looking into the deep pit, the red-haired man wonders if they are dealing with a new monster variant. He looks bored but serious, realizing that tracking this unique entity will be troublesome since it doesn't fit the usual patterns. The scene shifts to a desolate landscape where rubble is piled high. In the darkness, a cat cries out. Kay, lying in the shadows, groans in pain. He feels a rough tongue and wakes up to find Nero licking his hair. Overcome with relief, Kay immediately pulls Nero into a tight hug, overjoyed that the cat is safe. However, the physical pain hits him, and he winces. Kay sits up, confused, and tries to piece together what happened. He remembers the bastards who attacked him and threw him into the vat, recalling falling into the toxic black liquid and sinking. His eyes widen in shock as he processes his survival. He holds up his hands in disbelief, wondering if the impossible has happened. He touches his head and feels something different. His hair, once white, is now jet black. Kay grips his new black hair, staring forward with utter confusion, unable to understand how he is still alive or why his appearance has drastically changed. Standing in the pitch-black darkness, Kay looks around, wondering why he cannot see anything. He calls out desperately to his companion, asking Nero to help. In response, the black cat leaps into the air and spins rapidly, emitting a blinding white glow that illuminates the area. The sudden light reveals a terrifying scene. They are in a deep cavern, surrounded by swarms of dark, monstrous creatures. Kay stares in shock, stammering as he tries to process where they are. He realizes with horror that they are in the Blacklands, a desolate wasteland far outside the city. He recalls this area, the Black Forest, is so deadly that only B-rank pioneers are permitted to enter. Realizing the monsters are swarming toward them, Kay panics. He yells for Nero to follow and immediately flees. The glowing cat flies alongside him, lighting the path as Kay runs for his life. He barely dodges a massive, shadow-like serpent, exclaiming that the situation is incredibly dangerous. Despite the danger, Kay thanks Nero for the light as they race through the dark forest. They scramble up rocky cliffs to escape the beasts chasing them, and Kay follows Nero's light as they jump down a deep, vertical drop to put distance between themselves and the horde. As he runs, Kay's expression shifts from fear to confusion as he notices something strange about his physical condition. He looks at his chest, where dark energy radiates, and realizes his body feels amazing. He notes with surprise that even after running for so long, he is not tired at all. He leaps across a wide chasm with incredible ease, realizing he is moving faster and with more agility than ever. He lands firmly, stunned by the realization that his body is overflowing with a new, mysterious energy. Nero senses danger first, his ears perking up as he notices a threat approaching. A ferocious, wolf-like shadow creature lunges at Kay, catching him off guard. Kay realizes too late that his defensive stance is weak and he cannot block the attack. Certain he is about to die, he squeezes his eyes shut and braces for the bite. The monster's teeth clamp down hard on Kay's arm, but instead of tearing skin, a loud cracking sound echoes. The beast's teeth shatter completely upon impact, leaving the creature confused. Kay opens his eyes, stunned to find himself alive. The shadow wolf, now toothless and terrified, whimpers and retreats into the bushes. Kay inspects his arm and realizes he is completely fine, without a scratch. He looks at his hands in disbelief, thinking a hit like that should have been fatal. His eyes widen as he finally understands that this durability is the power of color he has been searching for. Suddenly, heavy tremors shake the ground, drawing both Kay's and Nero's attention. A massive silhouette begins to rise from the darkness, towering over them. A giant, one-eyed monster climbs over the ridge, glowing with menacing energy. Kay stares up in horror, identifying the beast as a cyclops. As the monster raises a massive arm to crush him, Kay wonders why a predator that usually lives deep in the Black Forest is this far out. The cyclops slams its fist into the ground with explosive force, causing Nero to yelp as debris flies everywhere. Kay survives the impact, sitting amidst the rubble. He admits the blow was heavy, but a confident grin spreads across his face as he realizes he actually has a chance to win. Memories of his past, being a lonely child, facing rejection, and being beaten down, flash through his mind. He acknowledges that he has finally obtained the power he always longed for and decides things will be different now. Energy crackles around his arm as he clenches his fist, resolving that he does not need to run away anymore. Kay stands his ground, clenching his fist as he resolves he is done running. Memories of his past struggles flood his mind. He focuses on that strange, powerful sensation rising from within, and suddenly, his body is engulfed in shadow. He transforms into a being of pure dark energy with glowing white eyes. The Cyclops roars furiously and reaches out with its giant hand to crush the small figure. However, Kay launches himself off the ground with explosive force. Flying through the air, he prepares to strike. He delivers a devastating punch that completely shatters the giant monster into pieces. The force of the blow creates a massive shockwave that blasts through the landscape, clearing a path through the trees. Kay soars through the air, surrounded by the debris of his enemy. He remains in his transformed state for a moment, but then his eyes widen as he notices something changing. The dark energy suddenly dissipates, and he finds himself floating high above a lush landscape under a bright sun. He looks down in awe at the vibrant forest and the waterfall below, amazed by the vivid colors of nature around him. Just as quickly as it came, the power vanishes, and his hair turns back to white. He looks down in confusion. Panic sets in as he realizes gravity is taking over, and he is helpless in the air. Screaming in terror, he falls rapidly toward the trees and crashes into the forest below. Kay drags himself out of the debris from his fall, while Nero hovers above, looking concerned. Kay collapses to his knees, gasping for air as the dark energy that enveloped him begins to evaporate like smoke. He realizes with horror that his color is rapidly fading away. Panic sets in as Kay understands the drawback of his new ability. He realizes that the more he uses this intense power, the faster it drains from his body, and at this rate, he will be left defenseless. Suddenly, the world around him goes pitch black, and a mysterious voice echoes in his mind, asking him what he is waiting for. The voice commands him to act, pointing out that the prey is lying right in front of him and urging him to eat it quickly. Kay looks down at the scattered remains of the Cyclops he just defeated. The voice manipulates him, asking if he wants to live, and instructing him to simply reach out his hand. Exhausted and sweating, Kay struggles to stay conscious. He looks desperate as the voice continues to demand he use his hand. His eyes glow faintly as he fights for survival. Trembling, he obeys the instinctual command and reaches his hand toward the monster's remains. Kay places his hand firmly on the carcass of the Cyclops. Immediately, a dark technique activates, and he begins to absorb the shadowy energy lingering in the monster's body. Nero watches with wide, shocked eyes as his owner performs this terrifying feat. A massive pillar of black light erupts from the forest, piercing the sky as Kay fully consumes the energy. As the light fades, Kay is left panting heavily, the exhaustion slowly leaving his body. He leans back against a rock, his hair black once again, and his energy restored. He looks up at the sky, letting out a sigh of immense relief, realizing that he is going to survive. Back at the Mari workshop, the day seems peaceful. Inside, Mari is working on a blueprint when the door chime catches her attention. She looks up to see a mysterious, silhouetted figure in a ragged cloak standing in the doorway. Trying to be polite, Mari welcomes the stranger with a smile, though she is already trembling with nervousness. She asks if they have a special request, but the hooded figure simply stands there, emanating a dark aura. The stranger takes a heavy step forward. Mari, now visibly nervous, calls out to him, pointing out that he looks suspicious. When he continues to approach, she panics and grabs a large wrench, warning him that she will attack if he comes any closer. The figure suddenly rushes toward her, causing Mari to scream in terror and squeeze her eyes shut. However, the intruder stops and pulls back his hood, revealing a familiar smile. He tells her to calm down. Kay reveals his face, scratching his head sheepishly. He tells her it is just him, though he admits he barely recognizes himself now. Mari drops her defensive stance, her eyes wide with shock. She stammers, unable to process the drastic change in his features. Her voice echoes outside as she screams in disbelief, demanding to know what happened to his appearance. Mari is shaking, clutching a metal pipe in fear as she faces the hooded figure. Suddenly, her fear turns into explosive rage. She pulls out a hammer and a wrench, screaming that she won't forgive the bastards who hurt him. She swings the tools wildly, shouting that they deserve to have their heads smashed, while Kay frantically tries to calm her down, assuring her he is fine. Realizing it is truly him, Mari sets the wrench down, admitting she got carried away because she was terrified after losing contact with him. Her expression softens into a relieved smile, and she tells Kay she is happy he is safe. Kay apologizes for making her worry. Internally, Kay reflects on the absurdity of his situation, thinking that surviving a fall into toxic ink and gaining a color is unbelievable. He voices a concern to Mari, noting that his new color is black, which is associated with monsters, and wonders if people will look at him in a bad light. However, he quickly brushes the worry aside, deciding that what matters is that he finally has the chance to become a colorist. He declares he will go straight to the Pioneering Corps entrance exam and thanks Mari for her help. Kay then sheepishly asks if he can borrow some clothes, promising to return them. Mari looks exasperated, sighing and asking how many times he is going to beg. However, she smiles warmly, telling him to consider it an investment in a future colorist. She suddenly grabs Kay's hand and pulls him along, telling him to follow her. Kay looks surprised as she cheerfully announces she has the perfect items for him. The scene shifts to a large crowd of aspiring pioneers, marching up the stairs of a massive Colosseum-like building. Inside, hundreds of participants gather on the floor, which is marked with large white square platforms, preparing for the exam. Among the crowd, a group of 3 men chats nervously. A man with blue hair and the number 183 on his chest tries to calm his anxious friend. The friend with pinkish hair expresses disbelief that they have made it this far, preparing to take the test for the prestigious Dawn Pioneering Corps. This S-rank group is known for its achievements in exploring the dangerous Black Lands, comprised of skilled colorists who are viewed as the hope of the Shining City. However, the candidates are worried because many strong rivals have gathered. The group notices a woman with long turquoise hair, rumored to be the daughter of a famous color family, standing next to a man in a beanie. They also spot other rising stars, such as a boy with pink hair and goggles and a man in a gas mask. Despite these competitors, the group agrees that one person is getting the most attention. They look toward a young man with messy green hair and fierce eyes. This is Gale, the Gale Sword, and people believe he is guaranteed to pass. Rumors say he is powerful enough to handle dangerous creatures on his own. However, he is also infamous for his cruel and violent nature, which reportedly got him kicked out of his previous corps. The blue-haired man, number 183, laughs arrogantly, claiming he isn't scared of guys like Gale. Suddenly, a dark shadow falls over him. Gale appears directly behind the boasting man, daring him to say that again. The blue-haired man freezes in terror as Gale looks down on them with contempt, calling them ridiculous brats. Gale walks away, sighing with disappointment. He complains that despite this being an S-rank exam, the competition is incredibly low. As he looks out over the participants, he mentally crosses them all out, thinking there isn't a single standout among them. However, his eyes narrow as he spots one exception, the turquoise-haired girl. He identifies her as Ellie Cyan, the second daughter of the Cyan family. Gale smirks, admitting she is at least decent enough to be noticed. As he reaches a hand out toward the crowd in his imagination, he wonders with anticipation how they will all react to the upcoming test. A mechanical speaker crackles to life, calling for the candidate's attention. Gale and Ellie turn their heads toward the stage as the voice declares that the entrance exam for the Dawn Pioneering Corps is officially beginning. A man with bright blonde hair and yellow eyes stands on the podium, announcing that the test starts now. The crowd gasps, realizing the examiner is a famous colorist from the Dawn Pioneering Corps. The candidates whisper excitedly, recognizing him as a hero who made huge contributions to a recent creature hunt. They realize that if an elite colorist like him has shown up, the Corps must be serious about this recruitment. The candidates feel an overwhelming presence radiating from him, noting that S-rank Corps members are on a different level. The examiner looks down at the crowd and welcomes them. He thanks everyone for applying, acknowledging they all have their own goals, whether money, power, honor, or duty. However, he states coldly that none of those reasons actually matter. His eyes glowing, the examiner explains that in the end, only skill allows a person to achieve anything. He declares they are looking for overwhelmingly strong candidates capable of venturing into the Black Lands to reclaim human territory. He tells them to look around, stating that mediocre people are not needed and that they will start immediately. He gestures to the square platforms on the ground, announcing the first test will be a tournament. He explains that combat ability is the most important skill for a pioneer because the world outside the city is a brutal place where only the fittest survive. He clenches his fist and commands the candidates to prove their abilities. He explains that those who pass the first round will be decided by the tournament results and instructs them to step onto the stage when their number is called. The examiner calls out number 126 and number 286. Gale, number 126, steps forward with a serious expression. The crowd murmurs, calling Gale a heavyweight and expressing pity for whoever has to fight him so early. Gale, however, lets out a wicked smile, thinking he is lucky to have some fun right from the start because he was dying of boredom. His eyes narrow with predatory excitement as he wonders how he should play with his opponent. Gale notices someone approaching the stage, wondering what is up with the creepy guy walking toward him. Standing opposite Gale is a figure completely hidden in a ragged cloak wearing the number tag 286. Gale analyzes him, thinking the hooded figure's stance looks awkward and weak. Gale grips the hilt of his weapon, deciding talking doesn't matter anymore. He draws his sword with a sharp sound, declaring he is tired of being quiet. Unleashing his power, he swings his blade, creating massive streaks of green wind energy, deciding not to hold back. The spectators watch in awe, recognizing the signature technique as the Gale Sword. As glowing green swords materialize in the air around him, the crowd praises him as a genius for handling such advanced swordsmanship at his age. Gale stares intensely at his opponent, challenging the hooded figure to try and block his attack. With a burst of speed, Gale stomps the ground to gather momentum, threatening to shred his opponent if he fails to defend himself. He charges forward with incredible force, surrounding himself in a whirlwind of energy. The hooded figure stands completely still and silent, unmoving in the face of the approaching attack. As Gale descends from the air, swinging his blade down with a shout, the hooded figure simply steps in and delivers a devastating left hook to Gale's face. The impact is so powerful that Gale is sent flying backward across the arena. The arrogant candidates from earlier scream in terror at the unbelievable sight. Gale crashes violently into the arena wall, creating a massive spiderweb of cracks. He slumps forward, unconscious and defeated in a single hit, leaving the crowd to wonder how such a thing is even possible. The hooded figure, now revealed to be Kay, rubs his wrist and looks down, admitting that the sudden movement startled even him. His hood has fallen back, revealing his messy black hair. He reflects on the sudden acceleration and chaos of the moment. Suddenly, a spectator points a trembling finger at Kay, screaming in disbelief. He isn't pointing at the victory, but at the color of Kay's energy, black. The blonde examiner watches with a serious expression, noting internally that black is the same color possessed by creatures. Even Ellie Cyan looks stunned, wondering if it is even possible for a human to possess that color. Kay stands alone in the center of the arena, unaware of the gravity of the situation. The others question if the power to defeat the Gale Sword in one hit comes from this mysterious black energy. Kay looks around nervously at the shocked crowd, confused by their reaction, and innocently wonders if he has made a mistake. The tournament continues with intense battles. In one match, a terrified candidate launches sharp stones, but Kay charges forward, easily evading them. He closes the distance instantly and delivers a powerful punch, sending the magic user flying. The announcer declares him the winner. Kay's winning streak continues as he dominates, violently slamming another opponent and knocking out a third. High above, the blonde examiner watches with interest, declaring that Kay is the standout applicant. He excitedly notes that Kay is the first ever black holder and insists they must recruit him immediately before rumors spread. Suddenly, heavy footsteps approach, and a voice casually remarks that it looks like a tough day. The blonde examiner turns in surprise to see the red-haired man and blue-haired woman from the explosion site. The examiner asks why Team Leader Red is here, but the man waves his hand, claiming they are just passing by. They briefly discuss the investigation into the large creature incident. The Red leader sighs, admitting there has been no progress. He then asks if there are any worthy candidates. The examiner mentions the young lady from the Tyan family and an extremely unique candidate. Suddenly, the Red leader's eyes widen as he senses something. He looks into the arena and spots Kay, immediately noticing the black energy. As the examiner praises Kay, the Red leader stares silently at the boy. The blue-haired woman whispers to her leader, asking if that kid is connected to their investigation. The Red leader confirms it is likely him. Internally, the Red leader concludes that a new color appearing right after the incident in the Shadow District is too big of a coincidence to ignore. He decides to keep a close watch on Kay for now. Unaware he is being observed, Kay looks at his clenched fist, smoking with dark energy. He is thrilled by his incredible power, realizing that becoming a pioneer is finally possible. However, he recalls the physical toll the transformation took and warns himself to be careful. He knows that if he overuses this power and loses his color mid-fight, he will be defenseless. A massive surge of freezing energy erupts from the arena, creating a wall of ice. Ellie Kyan stands calmly amidst the cold mist. The announcer declares number 17 the winner, revealing she has encased her opponent in a solid block of ice. The spectators, including Kay, watch in awe, commenting that the Tyan family's color is always impressive. As Ellie walks down the stairs, Kay watches her, wondering how anyone could defeat such overwhelming magic. Suddenly, Ellie stops as she passes Kay, staring directly at him with a sharp, curious gaze. Her blue eyes narrow suspiciously as she scrutinizes him. Without a word, she turns and continues walking, leaving Kay confused. The announcer says the first exam has concluded. The blonde examiner stands on the podium and thanks everyone for their hard work. He explains that since they are behind schedule, they will move straight to the next test. He instructs the failed candidates to leave, and they walk away dejectedly. The blonde examiner begins to announce the next test, but is interrupted by a hand on his shoulder. The red-haired man steps forward with a confident smile, taking over. He looks at the surviving candidates and declares that the second exam will be led personally by him. The candidates look up in shock, realizing who is standing before them. Colorist Red. He is one of the Shining City's strongest colorists, famous for retaking the Blacklands. However, the candidates are terrified, recalling rumors that his destructive power is so intense that even allies hesitate to work with him, and that when he is in charge of an exam, no one ever passes. The blonde examiner looks worriedly at Colorist Red, asking if he is sure, warning that the captain will scold him for changing the exam format. Red laughs it off, stating he gets nagged every day anyway. He announces that the test is simple and tells the crowd to just endure as his body erupts in massive flames. A giant wave of fire surges toward the terrified applicants, forming individual spherical barriers around each person, trapping them. The candidates panic as they are enveloped in intense heat. Red explains that he has recreated the environment of a certain region, noting it will get pretty hot. He illustrates that the Blacklands are full of extreme environments where humans can barely survive. He belittles the current test, claiming this heat is nothing more than a warm stove. With a serious expression, Red reiterates that if they endure, they pass. However, his eyes narrow coldly, as he adds that anyone unable to withstand this heat never had the qualification to become a pioneer. Inside the fire spheres, the candidates are suffering. One man realizes he cannot scratch the barrier, while others scream in agony. They wonder in terror what kind of hellish place the Blacklands must be if this is considered mild. Watching from the side, the blonde examiner notes that despite rumors, Red's skills haven't dulled. He marvels at Red's incredible control, observing how he instantly covered so many people. He acknowledges that this power is what one expects from someone at the peak. Suddenly, a loud cracking sound cuts through the air. Red and his assistant look over as one of the fire barriers turns blue and fractures. A massive surge of ice energy explodes outward, shattering the fire sphere. Amidst the falling shards of ice, Ellie Kyan stands tall, having broken free. Red looks at her, admitting that this is pretty good. He reflects that while the Kyan family's power is a natural counter to fire, his own power is usually strong enough to overwhelm that advantage. Staring at the young woman, Red concludes she might actually deserve to be called a real prodigy. Red wonders about the other candidate they were interested in. Inside his fire sphere, Kay appears to be standing still. Red observes him, noting that unlike the girl, this boy isn't breaking through. He admits he didn't expect much from him. However, inside the barrier, Kay is panicking, screaming internally that he is in big trouble. He realizes he used too much of his color during the fight with the Gale Sword. He looks at his hand in horror, noticing his black energy is leaking out and draining faster in the heat. Kay imagines a terrifying future where his power runs out. He knows if he is revealed to be colorless, he will likely be experimented on. Desperate, he frantically looks for a solution, wondering if he can absorb something to replenish his energy. He stares at the wall of intense fire. A realization hits him. Since the barrier is made of a color ability, he wonders if he can absorb it. He looks at his hand, admitting he doesn't know the limits of his absorption power. Deciding he has no time to think, he resolves to find out. He reaches out and touches the swirling wall of fire. Immediately, a violent reaction occurs, and Kay is shocked that direct absorption is working. The fire barrier begins to warp and twist, drawing the attention of nearby candidates. A massive vortex of black energy erupts from Kay, sucking the red flames into his hand. From the podium, Red and the blonde examiner stare down, stunned and unable to comprehend what they are seeing. Red breaks into a nervous sweat, forcing a smile as he remarks they have found a real lunatic. In the arena, Kay stands amidst the dissipating energy, looking terrifyingly powerful with red and black aura swirling around his hands. The entire arena falls into a heavy silence. However, internally, Kay is panicking again. He forces a smile, thinking this wasn't supposed to happen. He realizes with regret that he has accidentally stood out way too much. Ellie Cayenne stands frozen, questioning if she is hallucinating as she stares at the young man enveloped in dark energy. She looks at Kay and wonders if black is even a color a human can possess. Recognizing this is something unprecedented. A sense of anxiety washes over her as she watches him. Memories of the pressure to be the best flash through her mind. She is forced to admit that Kay is undeniably strong. She realizes that even with her full power, she could not guarantee a win. As Kay walks away, Ellie thinks that there is something about him that cannot be explained by strength alone, asking herself what he actually is. She quickly shakes her head, trying to dismiss the disturbing thoughts. Colorist Red approaches Kay and casually wraps an arm around his shoulder, telling him next time won't be like this. Red smiles, remarking that the black ability to suck everything in was wild and he cannot hold back his curiosity. He guides Kay away, suggesting they have a private conversation to protect Kay's privacy while he satisfies his own questions. Kay, sweating nervously, asks about the exam status. Red assures him that with a power level like that, he obviously passes. Kay is stunned, realizing drawing so much attention worked in his favor. He is overcome with emotion, thinking he has finally achieved his dream of becoming a pioneer. Suddenly, the blonde examiner yells at Red for acting on his own. Red laughs it off, asking his colleague to overlook it just this once. The examiner sighs and announces that despite the interruption, the exam will continue. He clarifies that number 17, Ellie, has passed because she broke the barrier, but the other candidates will undergo an additional test. Ellie ignores the announcement, her gaze fixed on the dark tunnel where Red is leading Kay away. The scene shifts to an industrial setting. Red stands outside a car with Kay, while the blue-haired investigator sits in the driver's seat. Red tells her to wait. Kay looks at his surroundings, and his expression turns to pure shock. He stares at a massive landscape of rubble and destruction, realizing with horror that Red has brought him back to the exact location where he fell into the ink waste. Colorist Red looks over the devastated ruins, remarking that it is an ugly sight. He explains that a major incident occurred here, causing Kay to freeze. Red recounts that for the first time in history, 2 pioneers were found completely drained and colorless. He adds that eyewitnesses saw a massive creature at the site. Red turns sharply toward Kay, pointing out the suspicious timing. He notes that shortly after that creature appeared, Kay emerged as the first person to possess the color black, calling it a coincidence. His eyes glowing, Red analyzes Kay's power, describing it as an ability that absorbs other colors. Kay sweats nervously as Red stares him down, declaring this is a completely foreign ability. Internally, Kay panics, realizing Red suspected the connection from the start. He frantically wonders if he can run, but looking at the man's overwhelming aura, he realizes it is impossible to escape from a hero. Suddenly, Red laughs, breaking the tension. He waves his hand, admitting he was just testing Kay, but complains Kay's honest reaction took the fun out of it. Kay looks at him in confusion. Red clarifies that while his official job is to investigate the incident, he is personally more interested in Kay's unique ability. Red explains that color powers normally cannot mix at all. However, he observes that Kay's ability seems to ignore those rules. He recalls the second exam, pointing out that Kay clearly couldn't control his power then. Kay stammers, trying to explain, but Red interrupts him. The colorist's body begins to glow with red energy, and he states that they need to run a test. Kay looks at him, confused. Red extends his hand, explaining that he needs to understand how the ability works. He smiles confidently, challenging Kay to try absorbing his energy now. Kay panics and tries to refuse, warning Red it is too dangerous. Red simply laughs, telling the rookie he is far too early to be worrying about someone of his level. Kay falls silent, looking intense and nervous as Red commands him to stop talking and just try it. Black symbolizes the Black Lands, an ominous force that devours everything. Red thinks that leaving such a dangerous ability unchecked is unacceptable because it could shake the foundation of the Shining City. A dark secret crosses his mind. People do not know it yet, but humanoid creatures exist. He silently warns Kay that if he ever faces them, or worse, becomes one, the colorist might have to eliminate him. Kay sighs, sensing the terrifying pressure radiating from Red. Despite the intimidation, Kay agrees to the test. He grabs Red's wrist, nervously asking for confirmation that if anything goes wrong, it won't be his fault, while dark energy rises from his body. The moment they touch, a shockwave of energy distorts the air. Kay gasps as red energy violently surges into his arm, contrasting with his own black aura. He realizes he has made a mistake. A massive explosion of fire erupts from the contact point, causing Kay to scream in agony. Inside the inferno, he shouts for Red to stop, admitting he cannot control the power and that it feels like molten lava is boiling inside him. In his vision, Red appears as a towering, godlike silhouette of pure fire, reinforcing why he is a hero. Red stands calmly within the flames, observing. He notes that Kay's black energy is sucking in his power without rest, acting as if it is starving. He realizes that because Kay's power is immature, strong individuals can resist the absorption, but this ability would be instantly fatal to most ordinary people. As the flames swirl, Red's eyes narrow with deeper curiosity. He thinks what they saw during the exam cannot be the full extent of the ability. He decides he wants to know not just how Kay absorbs colors, but how those absorbed colors are used. The situation escalates as the energy between the two violently reacts. Red watches as the black energy from Kay's arm begins to warp and spike, mixing with the red aura. Suddenly, a massive explosion of red and black energy bursts outward. Red is pushed back by the blast. He stares in shock at the figure emerging from the smoke. Kay has partially transformed. The right side of his body is now encased in a jagged demonic armor of solidified red and black energy. Red grits his teeth, realizing this form is ominously familiar. As he looks at the monstrous clawed hand and glowing eye, Red admits to himself that he would believe he was looking at a creature. The resemblance confirms his suspicions, and he realizes with certainty that Kay was behind the incident where the other pioneers lost their colors. Kay struggles to maintain consciousness. Red decides that his priority is safety and resolves to put out the fire before Kay goes on a rampage. He summons a ball of flame, preparing to subdue Kay by force. However, Kay lets out a low growl, causing Red to pause as the boy seems to be fighting something else. The scene shifts to Kay's internal perspective, a pitch-black void filled with demanding red text. The voices of the power scream at him, demanding intense color and urging him to bring more. Kay gasps in the real world, distressed by these intrusive voices. The voices continue to tempt him, telling him it is wasteful to hold back and urging him to take it. Kay mentally screams at the voices to shut up and stay still. With fierce determination, Kay's visible eye glows red. He rejects the temptation, ordering the power to shut up and stay crushed as he exerts his will over the chaotic energy. A shockwave blasts outward as he forcibly compresses the energy back down. The jagged armor dissipates, leaving Red with a look of genuine surprise. Kay is left panting heavily from the exertion. Red looks at him, impressed and stunned, asking if the rookie actually managed to suppress that overwhelming power on his own. Kay is left panting, his heart racing. He thinks it is insane that he survived and frantically wonders why he went berserk. He glances up nervously, terrified he lost control in front of a colorist. Knowing he needs to understand his ability, he hesitantly approaches the older man. Red, however, looks delighted. He admits he was caught off guard because the power Kay absorbed was stronger than he expected, but he grins and declares the experiment a success because it was fun. He tells Kay that if he wants to achieve anything, he has to be willing to take risks. Red decides that is enough for the test, but then pauses, saying there is one more thing. He reminds Kay that he is the investigator assigned to the destruction incident at this very spot, and his duty is to find the culprit. With a calm but threatening smile, he points out that the person in front of him looks like a perfect suspect. Kay freezes, his face pale with panic. Red explains the gravity of the situation. He recalls how witnesses saw a massive shadow creature, warning Kay that more people are interested in this case than he thinks. He argues that once rumors about Kay's black ability spread, it will be easy for authorities to pin the blame on him. He gestures to the ruined industrial district, noting the damages will cost hundreds of millions. He adds that if the city leadership decides Kay is too dangerous, he could be banished or turned into a lab rat. Kay grits his teeth in frustration, realizing he is trapped. He knows there is no way to prove his innocence. Suddenly, Red offers a lifeline. He suggests that if Kay agrees to come under his command, he might be able to do something. Without a second of hesitation, Kay bows at a 90-degree angle, loudly shouting that he puts himself in Red's care. Red tells him to listen to the full condition first. He clarifies he won't fix everything for free. In exchange, Kay will have to grant him a few favors. He asks if Kay thinks he can handle that. Kay forces a desperate, trembling smile. Internally, he screams that anything is better than owing millions or becoming a science experiment. He loudly agrees, promising to do absolutely anything Red needs. In the desolate wasteland, a small creature trembles in fear just moments before a massive wheel slams down, narrowly missing it as a heavy vehicle roars past. A large armored transport truck drives through the foggy, rugged terrain of the Blacklands. Inside, Kay looks out the window, thinking this is his first time traveling this far out and wondering if this is his first real step as a pioneer. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by Gale, a green-haired man who glares at him, calling him black-haired one. Gale rudely tells Kay he is being distracting and orders him to shut up, though Kay hasn't said a word. Kay looks at him with a confused expression. Kay sits awkwardly in the transport bay. He thinks starting as a pioneer immediately was what he wanted, but the atmosphere is tense. He glances at the furious Gale and the silent Ellie Cyan, questioning if being on the same team is the right move. A flashback reveals a conversation from the day before. Red asks a surprised Kay if he is ready to join the exploration, explaining he needs him to go to a specific spot in the uncharted area. Seeing Kay's nervous expression, Red laughs and tells him not to worry. Red shows Kay a map, assuring him he won't be alone. He explains that new recruits who pass the exam will also be deployed to the area, and that the official roadmap will be announced soon. Kay just needs to be at the location on time. Back in the present, Kay looks at his teammates, noting they were already on the truck. It is revealed that because Red's interference compromised the previous exam, the participants were given another chance. Many skilled individuals, including Gale, passed strict additional tests. Meanwhile, Ellie Cyan, the top-ranked rookie, joined Red's team at her own specific request. Gale stares at Kay with intense resentment, unable to believe he was humiliated by a fool. He thinks back to their fight, convinced he only lost because he let his guard down for a moment, and vows it won't happen again. He threatens Kay, warning him to be ready once the exploration ends. He mutters that if Ravian hadn't been behind him, Kay would already be dead. Ellie Cyan interrupts, coldly telling Gale to stop talking, mocking him that he would probably fall in one hit again. Gale turns to her in fury, asking what she just said. Ellie dismisses him, stating that Gale is no match for Kay. Kay looks at Ellie with surprise and hope, thinking maybe she is someone he can relate to. However, Ellie turns her cold gaze to Kay, confusing him by mentioning a past agreement they supposedly made. She glares at him, stating that the loser needs to stay quiet and follow orders, leaving Kay bewildered. Kay stands awkwardly between the two hostile pioneers, feeling the pressure. He sighs, realizing the team dynamic will be difficult to manage. The scene shifts as the transport vehicle moves across the dark waters of the wasteland towards a distant facility. The vehicle arrives at a bustling loading dock with workers moving supplies. The group disembarks. Kay, Ellie, Gale, and the other recruits walk out into the forward base for the Dawn Pioneering Corps. Kay is in awe of the high level of activity, noting the S-Rank Corps' exceptional supplies, something he didn't realize when he ventured into the Blacklands alone. Suddenly, a finger pokes Kay's cheek, startling him. He turns to see a smiling Mari, who cheerfully explains that since this is his first mission, she had to come along to support him. Mari opens her jacket, revealing Nero has tagged along. Kay holds the black cat, thanking Mari for taking care of him. She smiles warmly, saying Nero is family. She explains she got a great opportunity to join the exploration team as support staff, stating her skills are useful here. A loudspeaker announces it is assembly time. The crowd of pioneers stands in the gray wasteland as the announcement continues that they will soon enter the Blacklands. Kay hands Nero over to Mari, telling her to take care of him. Mari warns him not to do anything dangerous, and he smiles, telling her he will see her later. Mari hugs Nero, but the cat suddenly leaps out of her arms, startling her. She shouts Nero's name as the cat runs toward Kay and sinks into the shadow on the ground. Mari's eyes widen in shock at this unnatural movement. She stammers, trying to call out to Kay, confused. The group arrives at a dark, fortified cave entrance. At the front, a woman with bright orange hair and a white coat shouts for everyone to prepare, announcing a new recruit is about to enter the Blacklands. She yells that safety is the top priority. She warns that reconnaissance has reported unidentified dangerous creatures in Area 21, a very dangerous zone where an A-rank creature's body was found. Suddenly, a male pioneer runs up to the orange-haired woman, calling her Orancia. He nervously reports that the red team leader has brought the new recruits, but they have left their formation without permission. Orancia's eyes widen in shock, and she asks if it's true. The messenger confirms it, and Orancia sighs that guy is causing trouble again. The group secretly enters a dark canyon, moving away from the main army. Colorist Red reaches his hand into the shadows, leading the way. The small squad, consisting of Kay, Gale, Ellie, and Red, separates from the formation. Kay nervously asks the team leader if this is okay, pointing out that the main team is heading in a different direction. Red confirms that their destination is different. Kay looks back at Gale and Ellie, worried because the squad is all new recruits. Gale suddenly snaps, demanding to know why he and Ellie had to follow, shouting that he heard Red only intended to take Kay, and he feels insulted. Red smiles, his red aura flaring. He explains that his personal guidance isn't something just anyone can receive, so it wouldn't be fair if Kay was the only one to benefit. He assures the angry Gale that while he won't spoon-feed them, he also won't let them get seriously hurt. He cuts the conversation short, ordering them to move out. Kay's eyes widen as they encounter enemies. Deep inside a cavern, the group is surrounded by shadow creatures. While Red holds a lantern, Kay, Gale, and Ellie engage in a chaotic melee. A massive wolf-like beast lunges out of the darkness. Ellie Cyan reacts instantly, her blue energy sword piercing through the creature's body. She lands gracefully, realizing this is the reality of the Blacklands. Surrounded by glowing eyes, she notes the suffocating environment and constant waves of monsters, acknowledging it's different from training. She grips her sword, resolving to manage her strength carefully. Ellie glances over her shoulder, thinking she needs to move more efficiently. She looks at Kay and tells herself she doesn't want to fall behind him. Meanwhile, Kay grips a shadow creature by the neck and brutally crushes it with his bare hand. Ellie Cyan looks at Kay with total shock. She asks him why he is not using a dropper. Kay hesitates, recalling the entry exam, and admits that he doesn't have one. He explains they are too expensive and that he feels fine fighting without one, leaving Ellie staring in disbelief. Gale is flabbergasted, shouting it makes no sense for a pioneer to have never used one. A dropper is an essential tool for pioneers, used to infuse weapons with color energy to fight creatures. To properly hunt these monsters, one must color them using a dropper. The group looks at Kay, standing over the defeated enemies, and they question how he managed to defeat them bare-handed, without the essential tool. Gale's hand trembles as he grips his own weapon, realizing the gap in their abilities. He recalls the humiliation of the exam, realizing he couldn't even scratch someone who wasn't using a dropper. Gale grits his teeth in frustration. He glares at Kay's back, swearing to himself that he will crush Kay with his own hands one day. As they continue deeper into the cave, Red leads the way with a lantern while Gale follows, seething with anger. Red glances back at his squad with a smirk, thinking it is not bad to see two geniuses being motivated by a rookie. He smiles, believing things are only going to get more interesting. He cheerfully urges the group to give it a bit more effort, telling them they are almost there and suggesting they finish quickly to have a party. After the battle against the shadow beasts, the carcasses of the wolf-like creatures lie scattered. Colorist Red calls for a 10-minute break, though he warns the group, Gale, Kay, and Ellie Cyan, that the real mission has not yet begun. Gale sighs, complaining he has used up a significant amount of his color energy. He pulls out a small bottle of glowing green liquid. As Gale drinks, Kay identifies it as personal ink. This is a specially refined alchemical ink, an essential but rare supply for pioneers that restores their color. Because it must be crafted to match the user's unique color, it is insanely expensive. Kay watches with envy as both Gale and Ellie drink their custom inks, wishing he had the funds for such luxuries. Kay quickly dismisses the thought, walking away from the group. He reaches his hand out toward a defeated shadow creature's corpse. A massive swirl of dark energy erupts from its body as Kay activates his ability, absorbing the shadow directly into his hand. The black energy flows into him. Kay clenches his fist, his energy fully restored, and announces his recovery is complete. He turns back to his teammates, who are staring with horror and disbelief. Ellie hesitantly asks if he is sure he is okay. Kay waves off their concern, explaining he has done this a few times. Gale shouts in disbelief that Kay just absorbed a monster without flinching. Before they can continue, Red interrupts, declaring the break is over. The group travels deeper into the canyon until Red announces they have arrived. The team sees a massive, swirling dome of pure black energy blocking their path. Kay stares, muttering that it looks like a black curtain. Red smiles at Kay's stunned expression and reveals that this dark barrier is the specific reason he brought Kay along. To demonstrate, Red summons a ball of red energy and unleashes a powerful beam at the black dome. The attack hits the surface, but instead of breaking through, the energy is instantly swallowed by the darkness. Red explains that if anyone tries to force the barrier open, it absorbs the power and becomes tougher. He notes that this is very similar to Kay's own ability, which is why he had a hunch that Kay would be the only one capable of erasing it. Red points toward the dark wall, revealing that the path to the ruins lies inside. He announces that within those ruins hides their true objective, the Stella fragment. Kay's eyes widen in shock. The other recruits are confused. Gale asks what Stella is, and Ellie admits she has never heard of it. Red assures them it exists and that the Shining City is desperate to find it. He points a finger at Kay, ordering him to get rid of the curtain. Kay steps forward toward the towering wall of darkness. As he touches it, his absorption ability activates, and the barrier's black energy begins to flow violently into his hand. A massive vortex forms as the giant dome is funneled into Kay. Red, Gale, and Ellie watch as the obstacle is devoured. Red watches with an amazed grin, delighted his theory was correct. As the barrier disappears, he tells Kay his power will be extremely useful. However, Kay looks unhappy, sweating and trembling as he struggles to contain the massive amount of energy he just absorbed. Suddenly, the ground shakes violently. Gale and Ellie panic as the tremors grow stronger, realizing the loud noise is sure to attract hordes of deadly creatures. The loud rumble caused by Kay's action echoes through the canyon. Suddenly, a horde of black, wolf-like monsters emerges from the cliffs. The group finds themselves surrounded. Ellie and Gale draw their weapons, while Red laughs that such a large crowd has gathered to welcome them. Red commands the rest of the team to handle the creatures, while Kay focuses on removing the curtain. With a cold expression, the team leader orders his squad to wipe out every monster. Gale and Ellie leap into action. Gale moves with incredible speed, slicing the shadow creatures with wind-infused attacks. Ellie unleashes her power, summoning massive ice spikes from the ground that impale multiple enemies. As the two recruits clash fiercely, Red observes them. He notes that he was prepared to step in, but there is no need. He effortlessly summons orbs of red energy and fires beams that pierce through the remaining beasts. Red thinks that although they are new recruits, their skill level is high enough. Meanwhile, Kay continues to absorb the massive barrier, sweating profusely. Red smiles, thinking how nice it is when his subordinates do the hard work. While Red stands guard, Kay struggles with the volatile energy, kneeling on the ground. He notices the curtain's power feels strangely similar to his own, wondering if it's because they share the same black attribute. He realizes the danger. If he loses focus, the curtain's massive energy will reverse the flow and steal his color instead. Kay grits his teeth, refusing to be overpowered, and declares that he is the stronger one. With a final effort, the absorption completes. He stands on the path's edge, panting heavily, and confirms he has absorbed everything. He looks down at what was hidden behind the barrier and is shocked to see a massive, pitch-black pit with no visible bottom. He wonders if this terrifying abyss is the entrance to the ruins. Having finished his task, he turns and calls out to the team leader, reporting the curtain has been successfully removed. With the barrier removed, Red praises Kay for a job well done. He calls out to the rest of the team, announcing the curtain is down and ordering them to finish cleaning up. Suddenly, Red's expression shifts to pure shock as he senses an immediate danger. Moving with blinding speed, he rushes forward and forcibly grabs both Ellie and Gale, pulling them back. An instant later, a massive invisible energy slice tears through the air, carving deep gouges into the ground where they had been standing. The attack is devastating, shredding the remaining shadow monsters. Debris rains down as Red, Ellie, and Gale land safely on a higher slope. Gale stares in horror, realizing he would have been killed instantly without Red's intervention. Red looks grim, sighing that the lack of resistance earlier was because something else was scaring the monsters away. He recalls a report that a dangerous entity was lurking nearby. Through the dust, a silhouette appears, walking toward them, dragging a massive sword. Red remarks that they are out of time to fool around. The attacker steps into the light. It is a man with spiky hair, white on one side and black on the other. Half of his face is consumed by a dark mask-like growth, and he carries a collection of different weapons on his back. The stranger glares at the pioneers with a terrifying aura. Red stands between his team and the new threat, ordering Kay and the others to listen carefully. Red hurriedly shoves a lantern into Kay's hands, giving him a frantic order. He tells Kay and the others they must enter the ruins immediately and find the Stella fragment. Kay looks at the team leader with wide, anxious eyes. He asks if Red expects them to go down there by themselves. Red assures him that with their abilities, they are more than capable. However, Red doesn't wait for them to agree. With a sudden burst of force, he shoves Kay, Ellie, and Gale toward the dark abyss, shouting at them to stop whining and just go. Kay screams out the team leader's name in panic as the three recruits plummet into the deep pit. Left alone, Red stands with his back to the drop, his red aura glowing. The voice of one of the recruits echoes from the deep, asking what they are supposed to do on their own, while the menacing silhouette of the armed stranger looms behind Red. The two powerful figures lock eyes in a tense standoff, and Red knows a difficult battle is about to begin. The scene shifts to the pitch-black bottom of the abyss. Kay lies motionless after the long fall. He groans in pain, clutching his head as he struggles to stand in the suffocating darkness. Remembering the lantern Red gave him, he activates it, wondering if he is inside the ruins. The light flares to life, illuminating the area. Kay's expression instantly shifts to one of absolute terror. He stands frozen in shock, asking himself what this place is. Instead of ancient stone ruins, the lantern illuminates the skeletal remains of massive modern skyscrapers and concrete debris, looking exactly like a destroyed modern city buried underground. Kay stands on a ledge, using his lantern to light the darkness. He is speechless at the sight of the massive ruined city structures buried underground. He marvels that such a place could exist, but complains he can't see clearly. Suddenly, a voice tells him to stop complaining and head toward the light. Kay is relieved to see his teammates, Gale and Ellie, admitting he was terrified of being separated. Gale blames Kay for making them wander, but Ellie sharply retorts that Gale was just as lost. Looking out at the vast, destroyed city, Gale wonders what this place is. He becomes anxious, pointing out the absurdity of trying to find a Stella fragment in these endless ruins when they don't even know what it looks like. Kay agrees, admitting that searching blindly would take forever. In his mind, Kay wishes his companion Nero were there. As if in response, a glowing shape appears and he is shocked to see the small black cat, Nero, at his feet. Kay panics, wondering how the cat followed them. Ellie notices the animal and asks if it is a creature. Kay breaks into a cold sweat, thinking he is in trouble now that his secret pet has been discovered. However, he quickly calms down, realizing this might be a good opportunity to prove the cat's worth. He calls out to Gale and Ellie. Holding Nero, Kay smiles confidently and announces he has a way to find the Stella fragment easily. The group gathers as Kay explains that the little creature he has been raising will lead them to the objective. Gale shouts angrily, refusing to believe it. However, while Gale argues, Ellie completely ignores him, captivated by the cat's cuteness. Kay decides to demonstrate Nero's abilities. The black cat cries out from Ellie's chest, then leaps out of her arms, startling her. Mid-air, the cat transforms into a swirling vortex of energy. A blinding light erupts, illuminating the dark ruins and leaving the group in shock. The ball of light streaks forward, creating an illuminated path, and the three pioneers follow it. As they walk, Gale expresses his disbelief, questioning how a creature can have such intelligence and a special ability. He demands to know where Kay found it. Kay ignores him and interprets the glowing cat's movements, telling the group that Nero says the Stella fragment is right there. Suddenly, the creature notices a trail and shoots away. The trail of light winds through the ruined city, and the group arrives at a massive concrete structure. A dark tunnel entrance lies ahead, and Kay wonders how much deeper they have to go. Gale mocks him, asking if he is scared. Kay shoots back a retort and declares they are going in. They walk through a massive, high-ceilinged corridor with the glowing cat lighting the way. Kay remarks that the facility is much larger than he expected. Suddenly, he notices Nero hovering in front of a large metal door and concludes it must have found something important. The silence is broken by the heavy sound of a massive mechanical foot. Kay freezes as a giant metal leg lands right in front of them. The recruits look up to see a towering, rusted automaton standing before them. Gale is confused, noting it looks different from the biological creatures they are used to fighting. Suddenly, the robot activates a scanning beam, sweeping a sheet of light over Ellie Cyan. The machine processes her data, displaying a hex code for her bright blue color. The scanner then moves to Gale, registering his green color code. The beam finally lands on Kay, who nervously realizes the machine is scanning their colors to identify them. The machine completes the scan, displaying the hex code for absolute pitch black. Upon detecting this, the robot's eye glows brighter. It announces it has detected the color of the Black Witch and, identifying Kay as a threat, declares it will begin elimination. Confused by the title, Kay is hit by the robot's devastating punch before he can react. He is sent skidding backward, groaning in pain but managing to block the direct hit. He glares up at the machine with fury, shouting in frustration. Kay shouts defiantly at the machine, declaring they will not hold back. The giant robot raises its massive fist, threatening to smash them. Kay charges forward, his fist colliding violently with the machine's metal arm. He recoils in pain, wondering why its armor is so tough. Gale watches in confusion as the robot prepares another heavy punch. Ellie steps in, striking the machine with her rapier, but sparks fly as her blade hits the armor. She stares in shock, realizing she hasn't left a single scratch. Ellie panics, wondering if her powers are ineffective against a machine. Meanwhile, Kay analyzes the opponent, noticing the glowing core in its chest. He sees liquid swirling inside and identifies it as the weak point. Kay dashes forward, throwing a sharp left hook. Suddenly, the robot reacts with unexpected speed, swinging its arm like a club. Kay barely manages to evade the heavy blow. He retreats, frustrated that his normal attacks are having no effect. A realization hits him. He remembers the time his body was coated in black energy and decides to use that power. Knowing a full transformation consumes too much color, he compromises by concentrating all his energy solely into his right fist, coating it in a dense layer of black aura. With his preparation complete, Kay leaps into the air and swings his enhanced fist with everything he has. The blow lands perfectly, piercing straight through the robot's chest and shattering its core. The force of the punch completely destroys the machine's upper body. The robot's head flies off, and the light in its eye fades. Kay stands amidst the wreckage, letting out a sigh of relief as Gale and Ellie watch in silence. Amidst the debris, Kay notices a round object and picks up the robot's core, thinking Mari would be happy with it as a gift. Suddenly, Gale yells at Kay, demanding to know what that power was. He and Ellie corner Kay, bombarding him with questions. Kay nervously deflects their questions by claiming the technique drains his color severely. As he speaks, the large metal door behind them begins to slide open, revealing a pitch-black void. Suddenly, Nero flies out of the darkness, crying out in panic. The cat hovers near Kay, shaking in fear. Kay looks toward the dark doorway, sensing something strange. Despite the cat's warning, he steps closer, admitting he can't see anything inside. As his fingertips make contact, the black surface ripples like water. Suddenly, the darkness erupts outward. Massive tendrils of shadow surge from the doorway, enveloping the group. Gale and Ellie scream as they are dragged toward the entrance. Helpless against the force, all three are sucked into the black void. The group falls through an endless black space, landing in a new, pitch-black environment. Gale groans in pain, complaining about the fall and the darkness. He lifts his hands to check on himself, then pauses, noticing something strange. He looks down at his chest and grabs his jacket in pure shock, realizing his color, the green that defines his power, has completely vanished, leaving him in black and white. Kay and Ellie stand beside him, equally horrified. The entire world around them, including their bodies, has lost all saturation. They stand in this monochrome reality, confused and terrified, wondering what has happened to them.